Let's talk Etsy SEO because things have changed and so many sellers are using strategies that just aren't working anymore. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I approach Etsy SEO as a print-on-demand seller. I'm going to show you how I use Erank and EverBee together, how I organize my keywords, and how I take all of that and turn it into a title and tags that are actually structured to work without overthinking it. This is exactly what I do in my own shops, and I'm hoping that it's going to simplify your process too. Let's start with what's not working anymore because I've been guilty of a lot of these and maybe you have been too. First mistake is putting all of my focus into finding one perfect unicorn keyword and avoiding keywords with competition. I think it's very natural to think that competition is a bad thing, that competition is an opportunity that we just won't be able to wiggle our way into. However, competition and competitive keywords aren't the enemy. It's more so how you use those keywords and how you combine those keywords with other types of keywords. I'm going to dive into all of that here in a moment. Second mistake that I did was just stuffing as many keywords as possible into my title. It is a good practice to use as many characters as possible in your titles on Etsy. That does not mean just putting in filler and fluff just to fill that character limit. There still needs to be some strategy behind it. Third mistake I made was using keywords that just described my product visually. This is honestly how I used to do like 90% of my titles. I just kind of described what I thought it would be, what I thought it would look like. But these types of words and phrases that describe the product often don't align with what somebody's actually typing into the search bar, which is important on Etsy. And the fourth mistake that I made was I would make decisions based off of my personal passions and preferences and not actual data. When I first started my print-on-demand business, I started with just my iPad here. Fun fact, I literally didn't own a computer when I first started print on demand. With that being said, I didn't have really a lot of tools, computer, anything like that. So I didn't use any research tools. I didn't know how to use research tools for one. For two, a lot of research tools, like I use EverBee now. EverBee, because it's a Chrome extension, I couldn't use it on my iPad. And so a lot of the keywords that I was targeting were just my own thoughts and what I thought people were looking for, which worked to some extent, but I definitely started scaling a lot faster when I actually started using a research tool. Now let's talk about what I have found to work for me. This is the system that I personally use to make keyword organization less overwhelming. This is what I like to call the bucket theory. This is my own little self-made theory for how I like to craft up my SEO based on my own experience, also based in what Etsy actually states about how SEO works and how their search engine works. So in this theory, we have three buckets, three Post-it notes for keywords that we are going to be targeting. Our first bucket, bucket one, this is what I like to call our visibility bucket. Our next bucket, bucket two, this is what I like to call our reach bucket. And then lastly, we have our third bucket. This is what I like to call the bestseller bucket. Some questions that I like to ask myself to fill each of these buckets is starting to think about what is the product that I'm selling, who is it for, and when or why would somebody be buying this product? These types of questions are going to lead me to the keywords that are going to fit into each of these buckets. And I use this to build out every single listing. Now, something incredibly important to note is that it is going to be very difficult, if not nearly impossible, to fill each of your buckets if you've already designed something. It is much easier to create a design for SEO than it is to create SEO for a design. When you already have something that has been created, trying to backtrack and make words fit into each of these buckets, you often are going to be a little bit less relevant with the keywords that you choose because you're trying to make a square fit in a triangle, so to speak. And I'm not saying that it's completely impossible, but it is a lot more tricky to do. Trust me, I used to do it this way and I don't recommend it. The simpler way and the way that I recommend is having your buckets filled in and having your structure, having your title in place and exactly what it's going to be, exactly what your tags are going to be, which are going to come from these buckets as well. And then use that to inspire what you actually end up creating. It's going to give you a much clearer path as to one, what to even create, and two, you know that you are creating for something that people are already looking for. For my research, I use both Erank and EverBee, and I use them in tandem together. I find that I like to teeter-totter between the two. They both help me find keywords. However, I use them at different stages of my keyword research process. The simplest way that I could explain the differences for Erank and EverBee for me personally and how I use it in my keyword research process is Erank helps me find the path that I need to be on. EverBee is then my map for navigating that path. So in Etsy and print on demand terminology, Erank helps me find the specific niche, the specific product type, the niche product type combination, and then EverBee helps me find what designs are working in that, the pricing strategy, what additional keywords are being used in that product type and niche combination. So Erank points me in the direction I need to go. EverBee helps me find depth in that direction and navigate it efficiently. With that being said, they are both vital to me and how I go about my research and what works for me. With Erank, I do pay for their most basic plan. I will explain why I decided to pay for their basic plan. And then with EverBee, I did just upgrade to their business plan because there's a couple new features that you can do with the business plan that I'll probably talk about in a future video. But for the longest time, I had EverBee's growth plan, and that worked for what I'm doing in this video and kind of this research process. This video is not sponsored by Erank, nor is it sponsored by EverBee. I do have affiliate links to both Erank and EverBee, so I will have my links down below. I do have a discount link for EverBee. I don't have a discount or code or anything like that with Erank, but if you do use my links in the description box below, then I receive just a small commission and it just supports my channel. So thank you if you do use my links. Now let's walk through a real listing that I'm looking to create. Over on Instagram, I've been doing a little series where I do if I started a shop from scratch and I have a product type and a strategy and kind of like a niche in mind, and I walk through the exact strategy that I would use for it. So in this current episode that I'm working on, I'm doing if I started a tote bag print on demand business from scratch. Even though I'm going to be researching for tote bags in this example, you still can copy paste this exact process and strategy to your chosen product type or your chosen niche. And if you don't have an idea of your product type or niche, what I'm going to be showing can also help pinpoint good product types to pursue as well as good niches to pursue. When I'm starting on Erank, I like to have one of two things in mind, either the product type that I am pursuing or the potential niche that I see an opportunity in or that I want to find out if there is an opportunity in. So in this case, if I'm looking to pursue tote bags, I would start by just typing in that product type. If I had a specific niche that I was looking to pursue, then I would type in the specific niche. So maybe it's like book lover or teacher, nurse, any insert niche example there. That is what you would put into the search bar. So I'm going to just type in tote bag and we're going to go ahead and hit search. There are a few areas that my eyes focus to on Erank. First is the average searches, this top bar here, then the competition, and then third, I look over at this search trend graph. This is why I pay for the basic plan, so that I can see this search trend as well as down below in these additional keyword ideas. I can see the search trend for each of these. This will all make sense in a moment as we dig into some of the keywords. So I'm looking at searches, I'm looking at competition, and this is going to be what kind of qualifies my different keywords into the buckets that I'm pursuing. So as I mentioned earlier, bucket one, that is my visibility bucket. Bucket one is where I like to put any and all unicorn keywords that I find. Unicorn keywords are keywords that are high search volume, low competition. On Erank, they look something like this, where it is green and green. That is an ideal bucket one keyword. These are more rare, not as frequently found. In bucket 1, you're likely only ever going to find 1, maybe 2 keywords that fit into this type of credentialing of high search, low competition. Bucket 2, that is our reach bucket. And this is going to be keywords that kind of look something like this, where it's high search still, but a little bit more competitive. The competition on Erank might be yellow or orange. And then lastly, our bucket 3 keywords. These are the bestseller keywords. These are keywords that look something like this, where it is still high search volume, but also very competitive. And this is going to be the final bit of keywords that we use in our structure. For bucket 2 and bucket 3, that's probably where you're going to find most of your keywords. It's where I find most of my keywords. In a perfect world, if you can find 2 to upwards of 5 strands of bucket 2 keywords, that would be amazing to put onto your bucket 2 sticky note. And then bucket 3, this is often the most common type of keyword that we can find because they're very competitive, they're very highly searched. A lot of people are looking for these types of items or niches that are falling into this category. However, we don't want it to be overweighing the rest of our title. So to give you a little bit of a visual, this is kind of what the structure would look like when you are using all 3 of your buckets and using these types of keywords to make a title for your listing. What I'm going to do now is go ahead and start my research in Erank, and I'm going to show you everything that I find and why I decided to put it in each bucket. This is just what I found searching through Erank. This would be my bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3. And I popped up as I was writing these down how these would fit into the buckets. Let me know in the comments down below if this makes sense or if you have any additional questions on this. But this is just the start of my research, and I was able to find a pretty decent amount of keywords here. The next part of this research is I'm going to jump over to EverBee, and hopefully that is going to give me some additional keywords, things that I just didn't stumble upon in Erank, or additional things that just will feel relevant or make sense for this as a niche and add into my buckets and make these a little bit more full. I'm going to just start with my bucket 1 keyword. I have personalized trick or treat bags. Before I hit enter on this and type out the rest of my phrase, I do like to see what's automatically popping up in the search bar. With EverBee, I can also see the search volume attached to the keyword. So this is just another way that I might find some additional high search volume keywords that I can add to my buckets. Looking at this, honestly, there's nothing that seems appealing besides the keyword that I'm already looking to type in here, and that is personalized trick or treat bag. Now, I'm not doing design research in this video. I have a couple of videos on my channel about how I do design research. I'll be to link them above and below in the description box below. But right now I'm only focused on keyword research. So I want to look at just some of these top listings and see what additional keywords that they're using that I might not have included into my buckets. Something that I found, this listing, they're using trick or treat. However, they have dashes in between each. And when I type that into the search bar, we can see trick or treating, trick or treat, even trick or treat shirt. I'm not looking to design for a shirt right now, but we can see all of these have that dash in between. I honestly wouldn't have thought of that. And these have very good search volume attached to them. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a note of that on my sticky note. Another keyword that they added into their title is kids. They use kids trick or treat bucket, but I just typed in kids trick or treat and what popped up is kids trick or treat bag. So I am going to actually add that here. So a little tip, something that I did, I'm adding these keywords into my second bucket because I know that they are a lot more competitive, but I can start doing a little bit of keyword combining depending on the keyword. So for example, I already had trick or treat bag on my list of keywords here, and I just found search volume for kids trick or treat bag. So I don't really need to have that as two separate keywords. That would just be redundant and not necessary. So instead, what I would do is have kids trick or treat bag and make that just one long keyword phrase. Another thing that I might want to consider as I'm looking at these listings, a lot of them are embroidered or offer embroidery, and that is something that I saw very high demand for. Honestly, it was a bucket one keyword for embroidery tote bags. I think that's a little detail that I could add in to my final product and what I'm offering in this category to add a lot more value and really stand out against what's already selling here. All right, so after going through quite a few of those listings, it started to get to the point where I was just seeing the same things being used over and over and over again. I wasn't finding anything additional, but I was able to add a little bit more to my bucket one sticky. I added a lot more to my bucket two sticky, and then I added just one more keyword phrase to my bucket three sticky note that I have here. Once I have my sticky notes full, this is exactly how I fill in my title. I start with my bucket one keywords, followed by bucket two, then bucket three. And here's a visual of exactly what this would look like finalized as a title on Etsy. As I mentioned earlier, this also becomes my tags. Now, how this becomes my tags, I like to first mirror exactly what I have in my title in my tags. So what that looks like logistically is copying the title and pasting it down into my tags. Now, you will see that some of these keywords, they are too long to be tags. Your tags can only be up to 20 characters. However, I do encourage you to try to fill that 20 character limit as close as possible. Sometimes that's being able to squeeze 2 to 3 words in. Sometimes it's just 2 words. With some of my keywords here, for example, using the word Halloween, that's a pretty long word, or even like personalized, that's another really long word. I can only fit so many characters. So with that, I do have to chop these up a little bit, and you'll see I do that by just going back through and adding a comma in between certain keywords to break them up a little bit more. These don't always make the most grammatical sense in my tags, and that is okay. You do not have to have your tags be absolutely perfect. You can have mix-matched words and phrases. Etsy is going to shuffle and rearrange your tags anyway, so it's not as important for them to be super exact match to what a customer is typing in. Your tags are just like an extra feeler to reach out and grab more eyes, grab more visibility for your product. And even with all of this strategy, creating your SEO is still just an educated guess. If there was a way to make it perfect and have it just hit your customers right away, exactly where it needs to be, and rank your listing to number one, then everybody would do that, right? It would make sense. But that is just not the case. What we are doing here is a little bit of experimentation. And what's good about Etsy is you are going to know whether or not it works or it doesn't by whether or not you get views, favorites, and even a sale on your listings. If you have gone through your entire keyword research process, you've filled all of your buckets to create your title, and your listing sits on Etsy for 4 months and doesn't get any views, doesn't get any eyeballs on it, and it expires, that is an indicator that you need to go back to the drawing board with your SEO and experiment again. I personally like to do like a 30, 60, 90 day check-in with each of my listings. The reason I like to do it this way is because I have had listings, especially when I was first starting print on demand, some of my listings really didn't see any traction at all until they were like 60 plus days old or even 90 days old and getting close to when they would naturally expire. That is when they started getting views and started getting sales. So just because a listing doesn't have any views or has minimal views in the first 30 days doesn't necessarily mean that it's a flop. Just keep watching it. Look at it at 30 days, look at it at 60 days, look at it at 90 days. And then at the end of your listing life cycle, then you can make an assessment as to whether or not you need to tweak your SEO, or maybe you need to tweak your offer. SEO is an incredibly intricate topic, so I tried to cover and simplify as much as possible in this video, but please, if you have questions, questions, let me know in the comments down below. This is also the strategy and what I teach in my full course, Plan, Scale, Profit. If you are ever looking for community as well as one-on-one coaching with how to apply this with your SEO and you want to work together, no pressure at all, but if that interests you, the link to check out the community is in the description box below. I hope that this video helped you feel a little bit more clear about how to create your SEO for your listings on Etsy. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you aren't already subscribed, be sure to go down below and boop the subscribe button so that you do not miss out on any future videos. As always, I hope that you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.